didn't take long for the fireworks to start at the G-20 summit in South Korea. Yesterday, the Brazilian finance minister called for an end to the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, and the president of the World Bank set the tone for the meeting before it even started, calling for a return of sorts to the gold standard. Keeley says everyone agrees the currency system is broken, but no one is prepared to fix it. Terry is the senior managing principal at Sovereign Trends. He is the former head of Sovereign Client Services at UBS, where his clients included the world's central bank sovereign wealth funds, the World Bank, and the IMF. He's here with us right here. Terry, let's just get down to brass tacks. Realistically, what do you expect the G20 to achieve?
Eric, I'm glad you asked me that question today instead of a half an hour ago, because I would have expected a free trade agreement between Korea and the United States, which apparently has fallen apart, you've just mentioned. Korea is not going to be the abortion that Copenhagen was. There will be some agreements, some important agreements, some real reforms for the IMF, a good nod to Basel III and the Financial Stability Forum's work. But unfortunately, on the issue of the critical issue of global imbalances, not a lot of progress, and that's, of course, what everybody's hoping for.
Okay, on the issue of global imbalances, China and the United States and so many other nations seem to be at a standoff. Nobody really is prepared to do what's required to close those gaps. What can the IMF do? I just mentioned Bob Zoellick, who runs the World Bank, talking about a return to the gold standard. Is that meaningful? Is that productive? Is that what these people need to hear?
It's probably useful to talk about what the IMF did before what we talk about the IMF should do. The IMF used to be the world's sole clear arbiter of currency rates. From 1947 until 1971, no country could move their currency more than 1 or up to 10% without prior approval from the IMF. There could be no change. That was the discipline that the gold standard enforced, Eric. You remember, everyone was linked ultimately to the dollar, and the dollar was linked to gold. Well, that ended in 1971, and from 1971 until now, we've had what is called Bretton Woods II, which is a bit of a mishmash. And as you say, right now, nobody's happy with what we got. In the Wall Street Journal today, Geithner calling very clearly for a new framework to move currencies to their exchange rate values that make sense.
But who gets to decide what this framework is going to be? Is Bob Zoellick effectively talking his own book, saying that something like a gold standard brought back into today's environment would invest the IMF with the necessary power to police the system?
I think Bob is an incredible public servant for the U.S., and obviously at the World Bank he's done a better job than almost anybody could have possibly expected under the circumstances. I think what's important when you look at what Bob's recommendations were is to note what is missing, and it's exactly that, the rules. There are no rules. The gold standard was a hair shirt. It was very uncomfortable. If you had a large trade surplus, you had gold coming in. It used to regulate things, and now it doesn't.